which is like, I think, a bit of a false dichotomy to some degree, because this is the use of having vision, so of having some kind of alternative institution, not detailed, not exactly, but at least some working institutions that you could actually implement. This is where this becomes useful, because then you can look at your tactics and look at what the short-term gains you could win, and see whether or not they will take you closer to where you want to go. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. So the only kind of reforms that are the kind of reforms you should poo-poo are the kind of reforms that actually take you further away from the thing that you want to achieve, which is why it's important to know roughly what you want to achieve. So things like, say, voting reform, extensions of public media, things like local participatory budgeting, so like Porto Alegre, that kind of thing. Those are all steps, non-reformist reforms. They're not radical institutional change. They're not a whole participatory polity overnight, but they are steps that would take you closer to implementing that kind of change. So then just kind of final comment before we get into discussion, which is just that our kind of movement should try and embody the kind of values that we want to see in a better society. So if our movement is structured a bit more, like say Nike, then this is clearly not the type of institution that we want in terms of prefigurative, for a prefigurative role anyway. So here we could look at trying to form community groups into community councils. And yeah, I mean, it's just the need for mass popular movement. So our movement should kind of be appealing to people. It shouldn't just be about pain and suffering. And if they're structured in ways that increase participation and empower people, they should be appealing. Okay, so for any further information, you can have a look at PPSUK, our website. You can go to Z as well, which has loads of stuff on Paracon, Parapol, different videos and stuff. And for news, UK Watch is really cool too. So thanks very much, and shall we have some discussion? So, sorry, there first and then.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I missed it I think at the beginning. I was wondering if you could talk just very briefly about your organization and what you're doing in the UK. Like, are there experiments?
Alright, okay, so we're basically part of a project for participatory society which was set up in 2006. So we're trying to advance alternative institutions, so in terms of economy, kinship, polity, and also community or cultural. Paracon, so participatory economics is the most kind of advanced alternative vision, and it's also the most advanced in terms of actually stuff that's happened. So there's like a sort of 10 or so participatory economic workplaces across the world. And again, you can have a look at some of those on Z Communications. What we do at the moment is, obviously we do stuff like this, but we organise, we have local meetings. There's a meeting in London, there's one in Cardiff, and there's one in Birmingham as well. And yeah, we organise and we try to do projects. So we've got a few events coming on in terms of workshops and stuff. Trying to set up a participatory economic based radical bookshop, and loads of other stuff as well. Credit unions. There's a few projects that are kind of happening. And it was you, sorry? Next.
Yeah, about the people that represent the small councils when they have to gather with bigger councils to make decisions. How do you elect them, or
okay, so
how long do they stay in that position?
Yeah. Okay. So the suggestion is that you elect one person, say from the local council, to serve on the next level up, so level 2. So that you could elect just kind of majority, so the majority of that council votes for this person. But then you would want to rotate that, so people shouldn't serve like. And I think do you remember what Shalom puts as his suggestion? I mean, these things are are things that you could
change for each meeting.
No, not for each meeting. I think Shalom's suggestion is like, is it like a year, is it, or something?
Yeah.
I think it's a year. 2 years, is it? Is that a suggestion? Okay. So.
This is very similar to what we have nowadays. We elect politicians. There is just people that specialize and get away from.
Yeah. Okay. So where I make a massive distinction is that the politician that I'm not sure where you're from, but the politician that I elect represents about 10,000 people. So this would be him from level 1 to level 2 at least, representing about, well, in my example, 30. There's 30 people that live on the street. So that's I think in terms of like kind of human social organisation, that's entirely different. Because there's no way that my politician he doesn't know me. It's very unlikely I ever get to stop and see him.
We'll meet the people from other next councils and we'll get more close to them because they are there for 2 years, they will start making liaisons and maybe they will become...
Okay, so the point, one of the points here, I mean, obviously we want to look for like, what could go wrong, okay? So what could go wrong is what you described, some kind of like, you know, yeah, you represent some guy and he's gone crazy, all right? Well, lower level councils have the right of recall, so if your representative isn't representing you, you can recall them, and you can do that whenever. So you don't have to wait 4 years. So the difference between the current system and this is quite radical, but I suggest you know, it's quite hard to convey a whole political system in half an hour. But, yeah.
It just seems to me that somehow if you want people to participate in a vision, the vision, it seems to me the vision isn't actually really thought out because people haven't participated in the vision.
Well,
and it just seems like very bureaucratic. It's almost like you've got this organisation all fully formulated already without participation in.
Right. Okay.
That's what it's. That's how it's seen.
I can understand.
It seems very bureaucratic without a real clear idea.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we're here, capitalism. There's sort of no mention about how capitalism is going to be overturned, and then there's this vision.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. A couple of things. I'll get onto that. So for the first one, seems like a vision that's just sort of handed down. So it hasn't had participation for it. Okay. So the problem here is that someone has to have a vision, and if nobody's doing it, then someone needs to start it. Can I sort of respond with at least equal length? Or else we won't, I won't be able to expect more, but it would help. So yeah, basically, Stephen Shalom, this is a guy who formulated most of this participatory polity. And he's done that in conjunction through, sort of 30 years of activism with SDS and other people and other thinkers. So like Chomsky and Michael Albert, etc. So it's not that there's been no participation in it. It's not like he's just sat there on his own and just. It's just impossible. Humans just aren't that clever. Maybe Chomsky is, I don't know. But so yeah, there has been participation. Now, what we're trying to do right now, in fact, there's a great book which we're saying called Real Utopia, which is all about this, is we're trying to get people to participate in vision because we think this is a really important factor for social change. So one of the reasons the public is so apathetic, and actually kind of look at this is research I do, so it's not just made this up. One of the reasons people are so apathetic is because they believe there are no alternatives, and we are not providing alternatives. We're just saying, look how bad capitalism is, look how bad the government, the government, look how bad it is. And that's cool, and we should do stuff to like pressure corporations and pressure the government, and that's great, but for people, average person who's not really getting paid much and, has their own kind of issues, they're thinking, well, you guys are involved in something, there's no alternative, so what's the point? So that's, partly is the importance of vision, which obviously I've already said, so I'll stop repeating myself. But the point, what was the second point of the question?
The actual organisation seems very sort of structured without, it's all like...
Yeah, okay, so the idea of what we're trying to do is to get people to participate in this vision. So there was a whole, was a conference, and then there was like an edited volume called Real Utopia, which is all about, people trying to participate in this vision. If you go to Z, Z Communications is a fantastic effort for social change, and on there you'll find like massive participation in just these issues. So you see people critiquing institutions, suggesting, making amendments. This is, there's also Z Summer School, which is a kind of online school, which is really cool. And that's also been used to try and develop some of these ideas. So it's not like these are finished and polished ideas. Participatory economics is more detailed. This is nowhere near as detailed as participatory economics, and partly that's because it hasn't had that much input. So what you're saying is really important. Other people's input for sure, and that's the process that we're trying to encourage. We're not saying here's the final vision. We're saying, look, we need to start. Somebody start. Somebody jump in the pool. No one's starting. That's what we're
I
doing.
agree with that.
Okay. There was